AITA for checking my business accounts after she arrogantly called them worthless? My name is Connor Blake. I am 31 years old, and I have been working with leather since I was 19. Not in a factory, but in my own small workshop in the East Austin neighborhood, right here in Austin, Texas. My dad taught me how to cut and work leather before I even knew how to divide fractions. He passed away when I was 23, and the only thing he left me was the workshop. 3 old machines, a small group of 8 regular clients, and a solid reputation. I am not complaining. With that foundation, I built what I have today. I make belts, bags, wallets, and custom leather goods. Nothing fancy or imported. Quality Texas-sourced leather, all hand-stitched. My clients include folks from the industrial areas, downtown merchants, and resellers who take my pieces to craft fairs in Dallas, Houston, and even San Antonio. The workshop provides a steady living. There is not a lot left over after expenses, but we get by. I pay rent for a small apartment on East 6th Street. I eat well enough, and I manage to save a bit. The problem was never the money. The problem was Kelsey. I met her at a crafts expo in the park downtown. She was helping a friend at a bead jewelry stand. It was not hers. She had a way of speaking that made you feel like what you were saying was important. It was not an obvious beauty. It was something harder to define, a complete attention, as if the world shrank down to the conversation she was having with you. We exchanged numbers and started dating. She worked part-time at a clothing store in the South Congress area, one of those shops selling Western where brands nobody pronounces correctly. She earned little, but she did not seem to mind. She said her thing was creativity, that money was secondary, and that what she valued was the freedom to do what she liked. That phrase, the freedom to do what I like, I should have listened to it more carefully. There is something I need to tell you so you can understand what came next. My dad was not a man of many words. He was the type to speak with his hands, literally. He would wake up at 5 in the morning, turn the radio to the country music station, make himself a strong pot of coffee, and walk to the workshop. I accompanied him from the time I was 12. He taught me to recognize good leather by its smell. The real stuff smells like wet earth, not chemicals. He taught me that a well-made belt lasts longer than a marriage, and he taught me one thing that took me years to understand. The name on the door is the only thing that is not for sale, son. Everything else has a price. The workshop is called Blake Handcrafted Leather. Since 1987, my dad painted the sign by hand on a wooden board that still hangs at the entrance. The letters are faded by the sun, but you can read them. When he passed away, one of the first things I did was varnish that board so it would last another 30 years. I did not do it out of nostalgia. I did it because that name is who I am. The first few months with Kelsey were good. She came to the workshop almost every day after her shift. She would sit on the wooden stool where my dad used to rest and watch me work. She asked me questions: what kind of leather was best, how a buckle was adjusted, why certain dyes penetrated more than others. I gladly explained it to her. There was something comforting about having someone there in that space that, for years, had been just mine and my dad's memory. One afternoon, she asked me to teach her how to make a simple bracelet. I gave her a piece of scrap leather, a hole punch, and a rivet. I showed her how to cut straight, how to mark without pressing too hard. She concentrated, pricked her finger, laughed, finished the bracelet, and put it on. She wore it for 3 weeks straight. I liked that. It seemed genuine to me. She was the one who first mentioned social media. Connor, you have an incredible product and nobody knows it. Why don't you upload photos? Why don't you make videos? I am not into that. I have a basic cell phone. I know how to use text messaging and Etsy to sell a few pieces, but Instagram and TikTok, all of that seemed like noise to me. However, she insisted. She showed me accounts of other artisans who sold 3 times as much as I did. She showed me statistics, algorithms, and trends. She knew what she was talking about, or at least it seemed so. I said yes. The first month was impressive. Kelsey took photos of my pieces with lighting I never would have thought to use. She edited short videos of my hands cutting the leather, of the hammer striking the rivet. She added music, text, and hashtags. In 3 weeks, the account had 2,000 followers. In 2 months, 7,000. Orders started coming in via direct message. People from all over Texas and beyond. I could not keep up. For the first time, I had to turn down orders due to a lack of time. Kelsey suggested raising prices. I agreed. The clients kept coming. That was where the downward slide began. She offered to handle the orders. You focus on producing. I will take care of the rest. It made sense. I cut, sewed, and finished. She answered messages, closed sales, and coordinated package deliveries. She handed me a list every morning with what needed to be done and how much had been charged. At first, the numbers added up. Later, I stopped checking them. It was not out of blind trust. It was out of exhaustion. I worked from 7 in the morning to 10 at night. She took charge of the payments. She opened a PayPal account in her name to facilitate transactions, and I signed a bank authorization so she could make transfers from my workshop account. It was not a personal account. It was the business one, the one my dad had opened at Wells Fargo 15 years ago. 6 months after she took administrative control, something changed in her attitude. It was not sudden. It was like when a leak starts to stain the ceiling. By the time you notice it, the damage is already done. First, she stopped asking me things. It was no longer, "Do you think we should upload this design?" But I already uploaded the new design. Later, when I suggested something for the account, she would look at me with a condescending smile. "You know about leather, Connor. Leave what I know how to do to me." One day, I checked the Instagram account. My name did not appear anywhere. The bio said, "Handcrafted Leather Workshop, Design and Creative Direction, Kelsey Monroe." My name, Connor Blake. The name my dad gave the workshop was missing. I asked her why. "It is marketing," she told me without looking up from her phone. "People connect more with a female name in this niche. It sells better." I did not argue. I should have. 3 weeks later, Kelsey quit her job at the clothing store. She did not consult me. She simply arrived at the workshop on a Monday at 9 in the morning and said, "I resigned. Now I am going to dedicate myself 100% to this." At first, I thought she meant the workshop as a joint project, but the way she said "to this" sounded as if the workshop were hers. She started calling the clients my clients. The fairs where I took my products, she called my events. One night, I heard her talking on the phone with someone, I do not know who, and the phrase she used was, "Yes, it is my leather workshop. My boyfriend helps me with the production." Helps me with the production. Me, who has been cutting leather since I had hair on my face. Me, who inherited those machines. Me, who has calluses on my fingers that will never go away. A month later, Kelsey brought a guy to the workshop. His name was Jordan Ellis. He claimed to be a product photographer. She introduced him as a contact who was going to professionalize our image. Jordan Ellis entered the workshop as if it were his own. He moved my tools around to make room for his lighting equipment. He placed a white cloth over my cutting table, the table where my dad taught me to trace patterns. He did not ask for permission, and neither did Kelsey. While Jordan Ellis was taking photos, I was working on an urgent order for Harlan Cooper, a rancher from the Hill Country who has been buying from me for 6 years. Kelsey approached and told me in a low voice, "Can you do that later? You are ruining the shots with the noise of the hammer." I stood still with the hammer in my hand. I looked at Jordan Ellis, who did not even lift his face from his camera. I looked at Kelsey, who had already turned around. I put the hammer on the table. I left the workshop. I walked to the corner. I bought some street tacos from a food truck on East 7th and ate them standing on the sidewalk, watching the traffic go by. I was not sad. I was confused. At what point did I stop being the owner of my own space? Harlan Cooper came to pick up his order the next day. He is a large man with huge hands and a soft voice. He has a grayish mustache and always smells like the countryside. When he arrived, Kelsey greeted him before I did. I heard from the back of the workshop as she told him, "Welcome, Harlan Cooper. The order is ready. The total is $240. I had quoted him $180. Harlan Cooper, who is no fool, looked at me over Kelsey's shoulder. "Listen, Connor, had we not agreed on another price?" Before I could answer, Kelsey intervened. "It is just that there was an adjustment for the type of leather. Connor, isn't that right?" I stayed quiet for 3 seconds. 3 seconds that weighed like stones. Then I said, "It is $180, Harlan Cooper. Just as we agreed." Kelsey's face changed. She did not say anything in front of the client, but when Harlan Cooper left, she exploded. "Why do you undermine my authority in front of people?" "Because that is my client and that is my price. It is our business." "No, it is my business." It was the first time I said it out loud. She fell silent. Then she left the workshop without saying anything. She came back the next day as if nothing had happened. And I, being a coward, let her come back. but I did not say anything else. And that was my fault. Mr. Virgil Kane was the one who shook me up. Mr. Virgil Kane has his workshop 4 streets down from mine, on East 7th. He is a saddle maker from the old guard, the kind who makes custom saddles, reins, and leather sheaths. His workshop smells of tallow and oak. When my dad was alive, they would drink coffee together every Friday at 6 in the evening. After my dad passed away, Mr. Virgil Kane kept coming. Not every Friday, but many. It was a Thursday night. I was finishing an order of 20 belts for a client from Round Rock. Kelsey had left early. She said she had a meeting with a brand contact. Mr. Virgil Kane walked in without knocking, as always. He sat on the wooden stool. He watched me work for a while, without saying anything. When I paused to stretch my back, he spoke. "Son, do you know how much you were selling a month?" I told him the figure Kelsey gave me, around $6,000. Mr. Virgil Kane stayed quiet for a moment, then said, "Well, how curious, because your girlfriend offered my buddy Dwayne 20 of your belts at wholesale price, at $35 each. And I saw those exact same belts on an Instagram account for $90. I felt a chill in my stomach, and he continued. "Last week at the craft fair in Round Rock, there was a stand with your leather, your designs, your style, but the stand said Kelsey Monroe, handcrafted leather. Your name did not appear anywhere." I did not reply. Mr. Virgil Kane did not expect me to, either. He simply stood up, put his hand on my shoulder, and said, "Your dad would not forgive me if I did not tell you this. Check your accounts, Connor, and check them today." That night I did not sleep. I went to bed at 11. At midnight, I was still wide awake, staring at the ceiling of the apartment. The fan spun slowly, making that noise that usually lulls me to sleep, but that night it sounded like a clock counting something down. I got up, went to the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water. The apartment was dark and smelled like the wax of a belt I had finished that day. The smell clung to my clothes, my hands, the couch. I thought about my dad, about what he would do. My dad was not one for confrontations. When something bothered him, he would just work harder, as if the leather could absorb the anger. But I am not my dad. I needed to see the numbers. I also thought about something I was ashamed to admit. Part of me did not want to check, because checking meant confirming, and confirming meant acting. And acting meant that everything we had built together, or what I thought we had built together, did not exist. It was easier not to know. That is the trap of misplaced trust. You become your own accomplice. At 3 in the morning, I stopped tossing and turning. I sat at the kitchen table with the notebook where I write down my orders. I drew 3 columns. What Kelsey reported to me, what Mr. Virgil Kane told me, and what I actually knew. The 3 columns did not intersect at any point. They were 3 versions of the same reality, and mine was the least accurate. I waited for Kelsey to leave the next day. She left early, as had been her habit lately, and I sat down in front of the workshop's old computer. The screen took a minute to turn on, as usual. The cursor blinked over the blue Windows background. I opened the Wells Fargo account. What I saw took my breath away. In the last 4 months, transfers totaling $19,350 had gone out to 3 accounts I did not recognize. One of them was in Kelsey's name. The other 2, I do not know who they belonged to. The income from PayPal, the account she had opened, had never been transferred in full to the workshop's account. From every sale, she deposited between 60 and 70%. The rest stayed in her personal account. I did the math on a piece of paper with a pencil, just like my dad taught me. In 6 months, Kelsey had kept approximately $12,000 that belonged to me, not counting the sales at fairs of which I had absolutely no record. My hands shook. Not from fear, but from a rage so contained that my teeth ached from clenching my jaw. I printed everything. Bank statements, screenshots of the transfers, the PayPal records I could access with her email. She never changed the password because she never thought I would check. I printed the Instagram page where my name had disappeared. I saved everything in a yellow folder. Then I did something I had not done in months. I called my clients directly, one by one. I asked them how much they had paid for their latest orders. The figures did not match what Kelsey was reporting to me. In 5 out of 8 cases, she had charged between 20 and 40% more than she told me. In 2 cases, she had charged double. The following week, I acted with a calmness I did not know I had. Monday, I went to the bank and revoked Kelsey's signature authorization. The employee looked at me with a face that said she had seen this story before. Tuesday, I changed the password for the Instagram account. When she tried to log in that afternoon and could not, she called me, furious. I did not answer. Wednesday, I went to a lawyer downtown on Congress Avenue, a young, direct guy who told me, "With what you have here, there are grounds for a civil lawsuit for breach of trust and misappropriation of funds." He asked me for 3 days to prepare the file. Thursday, I changed the lock on the workshop. The locksmith was a man who knew my dad. He did not charge me for the labor. Friday, Kelsey arrived at the workshop at 10 in the morning. The door would not open with her key. She knocked. I was inside sewing a wallet. I took a minute to open it. Not to make her wait. I was finishing a stitch. I opened it. "What happened to the lock?" she asked. "I changed it." "Why?" "Because you no longer work here." Her face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, indignation, fear. In that order. "What are you talking about?" "I am talking about the $19,350 that went from my account to yours and to 2 others I do not even know. About the sales at fairs you never reported to me. About the clients you overcharged while keeping the difference." I kept going. She did not answer. "And about the Instagram account that has your name where mine should be, and the stand in Round Rock with my leather and your name." She took a step back. I saw the color drain from her face. It was not shame. It was the calculation of someone measuring how much the other person knows. "You are exaggerating," she said. But her voice trembled. "I have the bank statements, Kelsey. I have the screenshots. I have the statements from my clients, and I have an appointment with a lawyer. On Monday." A long silence. The noise from the street filled the space between us. A truck passed by. A dog barked in the distance. The smell of freshly cut leather filled my nose, as if the workshop were reminding me of who I was there. "I made this business grow," she said. Then her voice changed. It was no longer defensive. It was aggressive. "Without me, you would still be selling belts for $30 on the sidewalk." "Maybe," I replied. "But those belts would be mine, and the money too. You cannot do this to me. I left my job for you. You left your job for my money. There is a difference. Connor, without me, you are a nobody." There it was, the phrase Mr. Virgil Kane had anticipated without knowing it. The phrase people use when they feel they are losing control over something that was never theirs. "I am going to need you to leave," I said. "And my things." "What things?" "The computer is mine, the machines are mine, the leather is mine, the tools were my dad's." "What things are you referring to?" She had no answer because it was true. There was nothing of hers in that workshop, except a coffee mug with her name on it that I once bought her at a convenience store. "You can take the mug," I said. She did not take it. She left without looking back. She did not shut the door. I left it open on purpose so the air could come in, so the workshop would smell only of leather and work again. That same afternoon, Mr. Virgil Kane came by the workshop. I did not tell him the details. I just told him I had already checked the accounts. He looked at me for a second, nodded, sat on the wooden stool, asked for coffee, and we stayed like that, in silence, the way he and my dad used to do. The weeks that followed were the heaviest. Not emotionally, but logistically. I had to rebuild the relationship with each client, call them one by one, and explain that the prices had changed, that communication was now direct with me. Some understood. Others had gotten used to dealing with Kelsey and found it odd. I lost 3 clients. I gained 5 new ones. Harlan Cooper was the first to answer my call. I did not explain much to him. I told him Kelsey was no longer in the business, and that prices were back to what they always were. There was a silence. Then he told me, "I figured as much, son. That woman charged a different price every time." It made me angry that he had seen it, and I had not. One morning, about 2 weeks after the confrontation, I bumped into Jordan Ellis, the photographer, at a convenience store on East 7th. He was buying a coffee. He saw me and approached with a nervous smile. "Hey, Connor, I wanted to tell you something. Kelsey owes me $900 for some photo shoots. She told me the workshop was going to pay. Do you know if there is a way to?" I looked at him without blinking. "That is between you and her." His smile vanished. "But she said it was your business. And she said a lot of things." I left without buying anything. I did not feel satisfaction. I felt exhausted. The kind of exhaustion you get when you have been carrying something that was not yours for months and you finally drop it. I cleaned up the Instagram account. I removed Kelsey's name and put mine. Blake handcrafted leather since 1987, Austin, Texas. the way it always should have been. The followers dropped from 9,000 to 6,000 in a week. I did not care. I prefer 6,000 people who know that I cut the leather over 9,000 who think Kelsey is an artisan. The civil lawsuit was filed a month later. The lawyer told me that these cases take time, not to expect a quick resolution. I do not care about speed. I care about the record. I care that there is proof of what she did. The final figure, when the lawyer added everything up, unauthorized transfers, differences in charges, unregistered sales at fairs, exceeded $20,000. $20,000 that came out of a small workshop where a guy with calloused hands works from 7 in the morning. Kelsey tried to contact me twice. The first time via text message, a long note where she mixed apologies with justifications. Everything I did was for us. I did not answer. The second time she showed up at the workshop on a Sunday morning. I was organizing hides. I saw her through the window before she knocked. I did not open the door. She stayed outside for about 10 minutes. At some point, she sat on the sidewalk. From inside, through the dirty window glass, I saw her take off her sunglasses and wipe her eyes with the back of her hand. I do not know if she was upset or if it was the sun. I did not care to find out, either. Then she left. The wooden board with my dad's name is still at the entrance. I gave it another coat of varnish last month. The letters look better than ever. Mr. Virgil Kane told me something the other day that stuck with me. We were drinking coffee like always, and out of nowhere, he said, "Good leather withstands everything, son. The kind that tears easily is because it was never real leather to begin with." I do not know if he was talking about the material or about people. I think it was both. I am going to be honest with you. When I tell this story, there are those who tell me I was too hard on Kelsey, that she did contribute something to the business. And yes, it is true. She brought visibility that I did not have. I do not deny that. The followers, the nice photos, the orders from other places, that came with her. I am not going to pretend it did not. But there is a line between contributing and taking over. And she crossed that line completely and without looking back. She did not want to be my partner. She wanted to be in control. She made decisions without consulting me, erased my name from my own work, overcharged my own clients, and kept the difference. And when I confronted her, her response was not to apologize. It was to tell me that without her, I was worth nothing. That is not a person who respects you. That is someone who needs you in an inferior position to feel important. What makes me think the most is this. How many people are in a similar situation right now and do not see it? Someone who came to help and ended up trying to own everything. Someone who tells you, "Without me, you cannot do it." So many times that you start to believe it. Sometimes that person is your partner, sometimes it is an associate, sometimes it is a family member. The mechanism is the same. They enter through the door of trust and leave through the window with your things. Mr. Virgil Kane saw what I refused to see for months. Sometimes you need an outsider, someone who has nothing to gain and nothing to lose, to tell you the truth you have been ignoring. My dad had Mr. Virgil Kane. I had Mr. Virgil Kane. Not everyone is that lucky. Comment. I really hope this story stays with you the way it has with me. I've come to understand how important it is to protect our self-respect in every relationship. It's easy to let someone in when they seem supportive, yet we still need to hold firm to our personal boundaries. Choosing peace often means making tough but necessary decisions that honor who we truly are. Real kindness must always include being kind to ourselves first. Taking full responsibility for our own lives and work brings a quiet strength and freedom. If you're ever in a situation where you feel your voice slowly disappearing, please know that you deserve so much better. Healing truly starts the moment we decide we are worth protecting. Your name, your efforts, and your inner peace are always worth standing up for. Let's keep learning to choose calm and self-worth over anything that doesn't serve our well-being. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.